Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Cat Prince, aka Astro Cat, aka Maurice. I have a lot of different names across the metaverse, and today is the introduction to Western astrology, also known as Western Astrology 101, whichever one sounds sexier to use. I've gotten a lot of interest in Western astrology and teaching it because it can be quite confusing if you just look through this quick little write up I have. It's very confusing, or at least it seems like it's very confusing. It's very overwhelming. There's a lot of different things you need to understand, things to remember, etc., etc. It can seem like its own language. So, a couple things before we really get down to it. First off, this is a free video, but the course is paid. So, this is a free introduction into a paid course. You have to buy the class, buy the classes, because there's probably going to be more than one class. You can't cover all of Western astrology in a single class. But yes, I think this video will have a lot of value to the public. So I'm releasing this introduction to Western astrology or Western Astrology 101 to the public on my YouTube and wherever else I can upload it. As long as you understand that people will be having to pay for the class, then I'm fine. Secondly, the second thing I like to warn people about is I'm a genius as far as Western astrology goes. I don't say that to be masturbatory. I say that to mean, you know, Michael Jordan couldn't teach his kids how to play basketball as good as him, right? If you ask Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the world, how to be as good as quarterback as him, he can't tell you. He does things that just that goes against like the mechanics of being a quarterback, right? That goes against the fundamentals. Beethoven, he couldn't read or write, but he's a musical genius. He probably can't teach other people to be as good at orchestrating as he was, right? And that's a bit of the danger with this class. It's a bit of the risk, is because I see things intuitively that other astrologers just won't see. I look at things differently, and hopefully, I'll be able to translate this gift I have to you, and you'll be able to glean a lot of knowledge from that. But just understand that I view astrology a little bit differently. And I have a lot of gripes with mainstream astrology. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and that's one of the guarantees with this class is that you won't get any misinformation because to me, to me, Western astrology, Chinese astrology, numerology, they're practical tools. All right, I don't believe in Western astrology. I use it. All right, I want to use it for business. I want to use it for my love life. I want to use it for just everyday life. Just how to apply it. I care about the practical application. I don't care about the feel good stuff. I don't care about boosting my own ego. It serves me no purpose to boost my own ego. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's a lot of people who are like me who want to seek an edge or seek an advantage in their own life. And astrology, Western astrology, Chinese astrology, and numerology are definitely tools for that. For my people who see me on social media, right? Know me by my Twitter, Instagram, whatever, whatever. I won't be touching on Earth astrology or numerology too much. That's more for GGD3. This product, this class, this course is outside of GGD3. This is just strictly Western astrology and how I view it and how I've learned from it. One last thing before we really get into it, there's two people I'd really like to thank. Well, three people, right? First off is Gary, the numbers guy. Of course, he's my mentor. He's my teacher. He's the best numerologist in the world. For those who don't know him, he taught me everything I know about numerology, at least the foundations of it, and then I took those foundations and I built on those. He's definitely like a core piece of my foundation as far as Western astrology and numerology goes. All right, so shout out to Gary the Numbers guy. Number two, I like to thank Stars, Moon, and Sun, and she is a Western astrologer. She's been studying astrology for like 20 years, something around that. She does her research, and I really like her work. Her Twitter, at least this is how I found her. Stars, Moon, and Sun. Insert link right there. This is her Twitter. Give her a follow. Go look at her content. Um, I studied mainstream astrology, like what the mainstream say, for about 4 months before I just started going off on my own. And again, I don't say that to flex. It's just I really, really got into it, like 12 hours a day studying astrology, and she was a major part of like filling in a couple of puzzle pieces and just understanding astrology as far as the traditional sense. She's really good. I think I've gotten readings from her. I really like her work. Second woman I like to give support to, Al Azuli. She is another core instructor, core teacher. She taught me a lot about energy. She actually set me on this path with one of her readings. Uh, because right now my life has been energy. I study energy. Numerology and astrology is a part of that. Um, Not the entire part, but still, she set me off into this journey. Give her a follow. This is her Twitter account. Um, she has a whole bunch of different stuff. Right now, she's selling mushrooms. If you guys are into that, um, go give her, go support her right there. And I won't jump to these links real quick, but these are the two people I want to really give support to. Gary Numbers guy, he has like 50 different accounts, so I don't know which one to usher you guys into. Yeah, thank you, Gary the Numbers guy. Thank you, Danielle. That's Stars, Moon, and Sun, and thank you, Morgan. That's Falazuli. Appreciate you all. Now, I figure before we really get into the meat and potatoes of Western astrology, like getting into what every planet means, getting into what aspects, right? How to use aspects, right? How to really use different aspects. For example, right now, um, Mars and Pluto just conjuncted, right? And there's a way to channel that energy, right? And that means something. You can predict different events, just almost as good as you can with numerology if you get good enough, or you can project certain events, not predict. There is a difference, and we'll get into that later. But there's a lot of use for Western astrology. A lot of GGT3 ignore Western astrology, and for good reason. Like Chinese astrology and numerology. Once you know, like the intermediate to advanced stuff, you pretty much really don't need Western astrology unless like you want to fill in the details, right? The best way I can put it without spoiling anything, without giving up any NDA things, anything like I signed a contract on, numerology and Chinese astrology is enough to predict events. It's enough to give you the general environment. But Western astrology, again, it fills in the details. If you want a very detailed analysis of certain things, Western astrology is definitely your help. And this also includes Vedic astrology. Vedic astrology, in my eyes, because I don't think one is better than the other. I often get this question: which do I think is better, Vedic or Western? I think they're one and the same, honestly. Um, Same planets, same signs, same energies. Like it's not like you're using different things. It's just different names. That's to me. But still, the very very good Vedic astrologers can be extremely precise, even more precise than Western astrologers. So credit to them. But yeah, anyway, I figured I just introduce people to Western astrology because there's a bunch of different terms that you need to know before you really start learning, right? And a lot of people make mistakes. A lot of people, again, this Western astrology thing, it can seem like an entirely different language. Whereas right now, like I'm at the point where like I don't even need to track what everything means. Also, I just have a good knowledge library, and we'll get into what those are. I wrote it down somewhere. Yeah, knowledge library. I'll get into what that means in a minute, because your knowledge library really impacts your ability to read a chart, to read certain placements, transits, etc., etc. We'll get into all that. This course is going to be very extensive as far as my view and how to use it. I'm going to teach you how to use Western astrology, teach you how to use transits, relationship charts, fucking all those composite charts. I read composite charts as well. That's something that not a lot of people find use in, because the weird thing, the weirdest thing to me about Western astrology is that fake points and like imaginary points matter. And I'll get into that again. Like all this stuff I'm saying might sound alien to you right now, but for now I'm going to give you the basics that anyone can just take from this video and go research them themselves. After you see these basics, you're almost ready to do a reading. Do your own reading, I mean. So I figure we have to ask a bunch of questions first. Actually, no, one last thing. Let me introduce myself. My name is Cap Prince. I already said it in the beginning. My name is Cap Prince, aka AstroCat, aka Maurice. I've been studying numerology and astrology for 5 years, and that doesn't seem like a long time compared to like a lot of other people. But like I said, I am a genius when it comes to these kind of things. My mind is always focused on energy and understanding intimately the energy behind certain things. Like a lot of people just read off a book what Aries means, and I don't think that's enough to really give value to people, right? You really got to understand, why does Aries energy do what it do? I'm always asking the why behind the why. Like why does something do something? Why does astrology work in the first place? Why does numerology work in the first place? Um, Maybe I'll get into those. Maybe not. Depends how I feel. But that's much more advanced theoretical talk that I'll have to get into as we get deeper into the course. But yes, I'm a consulting numerologist. I consult millionaires, I consult celebrities, I consult athletes, businesses on numerology, how to use numerology, how to apply it. Right, I have clients that all around the world really who come to me. Not as much as Gary. I'm not as big as Gary. Gary, he's the big boss as far as numerology goes. But still, I have my fair share of clients, and I make a living off numerology and astrology too. Some people care about astrology, so yeah, I'll do offer my services. So, with that being said, let's get into the introduction to Western astrology. First question is, what is Western astrology? I pulled this definition up from Google, and it says astrology is the study of the movements and relative positions of celestial bodies, interpreted as having an influence on human affairs and the natural world. All right, so this isn't a bad definition, right? You can't go wrong with this, but there's a misconception formed with Western astrology, and already I'm about to deviate from mainstream astrology. Mainstream astrology says the planets have an effect on people, and I don't think that makes too much sense, right? Not physically or energetically. Like, no way does that make sense to me, right? Like, Pluto is a billion miles away. It doesn't really have effect on us. There's an argument for Neptune and Uranus not even being real in the first place. I won't get into that. I'm trying to. I'm going to try to stick to Western astrology, just pure astrology, and not stray into conspiracy world because I do a lot of conspiracy, well, quote unquote conspiracy stuff. But anyways, yeah, that theory of astrology working really only works for the sun and the moon. The other planets, not so much. Here's what I think happens. I think Western astrology is artificial, and if enough people ask why I think Western astrology is artificial, I'll explain. But Western astrology is artificial, and they in a program somehow, some way, someone made a program, someone made an entity, an energy signature tied to these planets. So the energy of, say, Jupiter is different from the planet Jupiter. The planet Jupiter is the rock that is allegedly rotating around Earth, I mean rotating around the sun, and the energy of Jupiter is a separate energy signature tied, that is binded to the movements of Jupiter, to the physical movements of Jupiter. All right. So what is actually affecting people on Earth? It is the energy of Jupiter, not Jupiter itself. Two different things. Even though one is binded to the other, they're very different things. All right. So I don't think Pluto is fucking with people on planet Earth. The energy of Pluto, however, an energy signature tied to Pluto, is affecting things on Earth. I think that's much more likely. And I think the technology to be able to detect exactly what I'm talking about is about 60, 70, 80 years away. So, you know, I could be wrong. I could be just spreading BS. But I think that's a lot more plausible, a lot more, at least it fits in my mind. And after I accepted that, a lot of Western astrology really started to work in filling the pieces to me. My mind just works differently. That's how it works in my mind. Right? So the energy of different planets is affecting us, not the planets themselves. Okay, so we answered what is astrology. And to really complete the question, what is astrology, you have to know what astrology is, know what the signs are, because these are the major pieces of astrology, right? There is no astrology if you don't know what the signs are. So in astrology, there are 12 signs, there are 12 houses, and there are 9 planets. Most people just know the signs. For example, the sun sign is what they know. When someone says, I am a Gemini, they're talking about the sun. It means the sun is, um, it means they were born around May to June, right? Because that's usually when the sun is in Gemini. That's what they mean. I am a Gemini, right? But there's 9 other planets that you got to consider, and not all of them are in Gemini. Some of them may be in Cancer, some of them may be in Scorpio, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is considered advanced astrology, but this is going to be really simple. At about the third class, you're just going to be looking at this and just think it's really easy. I know this seems like a lot of information, but yes. So every sign has a ruling planet. Very important that you need to know, right? And I wrote exactly which ruling planet is tied to their sign. Like, all of these are just grouped in different families. I'll call these families. For example, the ruling sign of Aries is Mars, and Aries and Mars are tied to the first house. I call this a family. This is in their own family, right? They all have similar behaviors, right? So let's just go through each one just for the people who are brand new to astrology. The 12 signs in order, because Western astrology is numbered. The signs are numbered. So first sign is Aries, then Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. All right, those are the 12 signs. The ruling planets, because every sign has a ruling planet that flavors their life, right? So, for example, Mars, which is also Aries, the god of war, right? Aries are more impulsive. Aries more likely to fight, more likely to argue, right? That's just one way of how Mars affects Aries, right? Aries have a lot of energy. Mars, the planet that rules energy, I think I wrote that somewhere. Yep, energy right here. So yeah, every ruling planet flavors the sign. So the planets, they are numbered, but the planets are numbered several ways. It's weird. So I'll get into that in another class. But yeah, the planets, you have Mars ruling over Aries, you have Venus ruling over Taurus, you have Mercury ruling over Gemini, you have the Moon ruling over Cancer, you have the Sun ruling over Leo, you have Pluto ruling over Scorpio, you have Jupiter ruling over Sagittarius, Saturn ruling over Capricorn, Uranus ruling over Aquarius, and Neptune ruling over Pisces. Now, as you see here, you have a not applicable to two signs because Virgo and Libra's ruling planet were destroyed a long time ago. A lot of mainstream astrologers say that Virgo is, that Mercury is Virgo's ruling planet. This is misinformation. Some people say that Venus is Libra's ruling planet. This is misinformation, right? They do not have a ruling planet, and I'll explain exactly how that affects Virgos and Libras and what that means, and how to apply this in your own life in the very next class after this one. So this will all be explained. And then you have houses. Houses are for your natal charts, right? Well, any chart, not just natal chart. Every chart will have houses, and this is basically where the planets live. This is what I like to say. And every house dominates a different part of your life, right? It details a different part of your life. And this adds a lot of detail to these other two. And again, just like a ruling planet is assigned to a sign, or I should put it the other way around, just like how a sign is assigned to a ruling planet, a house is also assigned to the other two. All right. So Aries, Mars are in the first house. They rule the first house. Taurus, Venus, second house. Gemini, Mercury, third house. Cancer, Moon, fourth house, etc., etc. You guys can read. I'm not going to treat you like they're stupid. All right. So one mistake that people make with Western astrology is that they assume that just because a sign, a planet, and a house are in the same family, that they are interchangeable. This is not true. At least not for me. And I even wrote an example down here. So as you see here, right, you have the 12th house and Pisces in the same family. And while the 12th house represents graveyards, death, and the subconscious, right? That's not necessarily what I think of when I see Pisces, right? Like a Pisces sun isn't really associated with graveyards and death, right? Because if you think about just sun signs, pure sun signs, Scorpio is the sun sign really associated with death, right? Now, both can share that, but again, Pisces isn't really associated with death. So, two different things, right? Um, some astrologers, if they see that your sun is in the 12th house, they start treating you like you're a Pisces. I don't do that. I treat a sun in the 12th house just as a sun in the 12th house, right? And if your sun is in Aquarius, but you have Aquarius sun in the 12th house, I'd read both of those, right? And that's really where you can see the skill of the astrologer. This is where the skill difference in astrology comes from. Because if you look online, right, like astrology.com, right, any site where you can get a free reading, if you put in your birthday, it just spits out a natal chart in these readings. Those websites get their readings from like 300-year-old books, pretty much. And everyone else just pretty much copies and pastes off those books. A lot of the big time astrologers, they don't waste time thinking of their own readings. They copy and paste off these websites, off of computers, off of machines, which is one reason I really got into Western astrology in the first place because I was pissed. I think I bought a reading from some astrologer with like 150,000 followers or some shit. I forget her name. And like it was just copy and paste. Like I'm like I could have just got this for free, but I paid you $100. Like you're a scammer. And I got tired of scammers. I got tired of people getting scammed in the first place. And a lot of these readings weren't even accurate, right? And that's why I got into Western astrology in the first place. So yeah, here's a skill difference in Western astrology. Is like a machine, or if you read a book, it can tell you what exactly Sun and Aries mean, right? It might tell you what Mars in the fifth house mean, but what does a Taurus Mars in the sixth house mean? Like, how does that work, right? And that's where the real skill expression of Western astrology comes in, because a lot of people can't tell you that. But I'll get into that in a class. This is all be covered. There'll be no confusion. There should be no confusion as we get into Western astrology. All right. And here's the circle. Here's a chart circle that tells you everything. This is one of the better ones. It has the name of every sign. It has the houses. I can't read this. Unfortunately, it got really blurry. It also has the symbols. The symbols also matter a lot. Yes, yes, these symbols are very important. The alchemical symbols. The planets also have alchemical symbols as well, but I forgot to pull those up. But yes, all planets have alchemical symbols. The sun is a circle with a dot in it. Maybe you've seen that, but still. All right. So, what's the best use of Western astrology? And before I get into this, I figure it's best to actually cover what isn't the best use of Western astrology. And to me, Western astrology is very bad for predictions, right? One second, let me get some water. All right, Western astrology is really bad for predictions. When you see Western astrologies make predictions, when you see Western astrologers make predictions, they're not really making predictions, they're making projections, right? Numerology, right? When Gary makes predictions, he's actually predicting, he's not projecting. And what do I mean? What's the difference between projecting and predicting? Western astrologers go, well, Aries act like this, so they're going to do this in the future. That's what they do. Numerologists go, this will happen on this date. There's a difference, okay? Which is why a lot of Western astrologers, are very incorrect when they make predictions, especially long-term predictions. I think like what 80% of Western astrologers said Hillary Clinton was going to win presidency, and the numerologists predicted that Donald Trump will win. Right? So they can be wrong because again, a lot of them don't understand the energy. They don't understand the energy they're messing with. They're just reading off a book and just going off that. Number two, again, projecting is not predicting. All right, it's very hard to project behavior over a long period of time. Okay, so yeah, not good for predictions. Don't use Western astrology for predictions. Numerology and Earth astrology or Chinese astrology, they're the same thing. Um, they're the exact same thing. Just so no one gets confused. Numerology and Earth astrology supersede Western astrology. So what does this mean? What does this term mean right here? It means, right, if someone comes to me and says, "Hey man, look at this chart between me and my girl, man, I really like her," right? I can read that your chart is going to be amazing, but if the numerology and Chinese astrology is bad, I'm going to listen to the numerology and Chinese astrology over the Western astrology, right? Numerology supersedes Earth astrology supersedes Western. That's the hierarchy. All right. So, and that's for better or worse. Some people will read the numerology but see that their Western astrology says something better and just listen to that. I, again, for me, who wants to use Western astrology and numerology for practical purposes, I see no reason to do that. Right. Maybe if you want to feel your own ego, maybe if you just want to ignore the bad shit, fine. But again, I don't do that. For better or worse, I always listen to the numerology over the Western astrology. And that's if those two challenge each other, right? So if numerology says one thing, Western astrology says another. Again, I listen to the numerology. So, okay, what is the best use for Western astrology is finding the dynamic between two personalities. That is, Western astrology is amazing for this, right? It gives you a lot of the detail that Earth astrology and numerology maybe not. You can find general dynamics, right? So if someone asks you, how will a 5 life path and a 4 life path get along together, you'll get like general, very general stuff. But if you want details, like how, like the details of a relationship, you get Western astrology. And notice I said two personalities, not two people, right? So if you want to find out the dynamic between you and the company, or between two countries, or between any combination of people, countries, people, countries, events, etc., etc. Western astrology is great for this, in my opinion, right? That's the first practical use of Western astrology. The second practical use, as far as me, is windows of opportunity, and this is a more advanced, more intermediate to advanced application of Western astrology. Is finding windows of opportunity. Stars, Moon, and Sun. I deleted her stuff. She has a great quote where it says, numerology and astrology isn't great for avoiding the bad times. It tells you when they come, though. So that's great. That's great. That's perfect for exactly what numerology and astrology do. It tells you when the bad times and the good times are coming and how to and I'm gonna get into how to exactly take advantage of each and every one, right? And especially with Western astrology, there's so many things to consider, right? Even today, I'm gonna look at the chart for today. I can't pull it up on my screen because I don't have that pulled up. But let's see, what's the chart for today? Current chart, right? You have Mars conjunct Pluto, Venus conjunct Pluto, Moon square Mercury, Moon conjunct Uranus, Venus conjunct Mars. All these different things, right? Some of them are bad, some of them are good. Which one do I listen to? Which one do I really just ignore, et cetera, et cetera? Because some stuff is just pure BS. Some stuff you really need to pay attention to and has a effect, has impact on world events. Again, we'll get into all this in the course. Oh yeah, another warning. I do not care about asteroids. I don't see a reason to pay attention to asteroids. Why? Did I already write this? Let me see. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I do not care about asteroids. Really, the only asteroid I respect is Chiron and maybe Lilith. I'm still observing Lilith. Uh, but it doesn't really impact much. Like because if you look at all the asteroids, it's basically a combination of any of these planets, right? And for most people who look at asteroids, it's because they don't like something in their natal chart and they want to find something else through these asteroids. There's like what 100,000 asteroids out there that are named in astrology and all these different meanings. But like your original nine planets give you everything you need. Like you have everything you already need in these nine planets. Right? There's no reason to look somewhere else. And actually, let's get into what these planets mean, right? Because that's the basics. This is the very basics of your knowledge library, right? This is the very basics, and we're going to be expanding your knowledge library, at least your Western astrology knowledge library, as we go out through the course. Because your knowledge library, like accessing this knowledge library, is key to doing readings, right? And to really understanding each of these planets and each of these signs. Another way I differ from a lot of Western astrologers is I think that the planets are the most important, not the signs. A lot of Western astrologers believe the signs are the source of the energy. Um, well, I don't even think they like think about this. Maybe they do, but I think the planets are the source of the energy. I think the signs and the houses both draw energy from the planets because the planets, again, are the only physical thing there, right? Or even the energy of the planets are tied to something physical, right? Aries, there's really nothing physical that binding Aries. There's the first house. These houses aren't even they're only like for a chart, right? Which is a part of the weird thing, right? Another weird part that I'm not going to touch on right now. You have the North nodes, which I do care about. North node, South node. I care about a lot. Like these are very important. Um, these have another name in Vedic astrology. I forget their name right now, but these are even important in Vedic astrology. They're super important. Um, I think it's Rahu and Ketu, right? Rahu, Ketu. Um, but these points don't exist. Like if you look in the sky, you have no way of knowing. They're like a mathematical point according to the moon or something like that. And again, this is where Western astrology is weird because you can have like things that like you have imaginary concepts have effect on your life. So, anyways, um, let's get into the planets, right? I believe the planets are the source of energy. They take priority, right? So if you have a sun in Gemini, but you have I don't know, sun over Pluto, sun conjunct Pluto, and we'll get into aspects later. Um, I consider you to be very plutonic, very intense, very et cetera, et cetera. I don't feel like interpreting right now. I'm just going to go through the basics, right? So every planet has their role and and does different things in your natal chart. So you have the sun, which is I am. Most people say I am a Gemini, right? It illuminates. You have the moon controls feelings, cycles. Mercury controls communication, ideas, words. Mars controls energy, action, sex. Venus controls money, relationships. Jupiter controls beliefs. Saturn controls time, karma, responsibilities. People who've followed Gary for a long time, he's always said that Saturn is the most important planet. But he's also a Capricorn, so of course he would say that. But still, Saturn, big time player, time, karma, responsibilities. Uranus controls chaos. Neptune controls the dreams and subconscious. Pluto controls transformation, taboos. And these words, like there are more than like 50 words for every planet that you can use. But I'm this is just the very beginning of your knowledge library. I don't want to just like overload your mind. Like just Uranus alone, right? Uranus controls the internet, controls innovation, right? It controls unpredictability, both good and bad. Instability as well. Controls the future, right? And all these different words I can use for Uranus alone. And just understand that every planet has like 50 different words that can be applied to it. But this is just the beginning of your knowledge library. I don't want to overload your mind. These are just very general applications of each one, right? North Node and South Node is like destiny, fate, good word. Chiron is the only asteroid I really respect. I don't really care about the other ones. Chiron controls psychological wounds, wounds and healing, right? Healing. All right. So understand that some people think that they can climb above their astrology because I believe Western astrology is your quote unquote default settings. A lot of people just default to their Western astrology, and you might have heard the term NPC. Like you can literally see the hardwiring of an NPC in their chart if you believe in that kind of stuff, right? But still, like if this world was a video game, this would be how you were programmed according to your Western astrology, and you're never going to climb above your Western astrology. Um, there's always going to be expressions of your energy, and each of your nine planets can, at any point in time, be at a low or a high expression. All right, all right, and we'll get into that. That's kind of an intermediate thing, but just understand you're always expressing your different energies at all times. All right, so aspects, very important. I'm gonna cover aspects last. Actually, let's go down to groupings of a sign, right? So you have a bunch of different groupings. There are 12 signs that can be cut up a bunch of different ways. The first way that the signs are cut up are elements, right? There are four elements cut up to three signs apiece. You have the fire elements, which are Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. You have the earth elements, which is Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. You have the air elements, the air signs, I mean, which is Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. You have the water signs, which is Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, right? And the elements generally they behave the same or very similar. And they can share like a group of beliefs. And if you notice, these elements form a trine. Here's a picture of a trine. Usually, a trine can only be formed in the same element. The trine in this natal chart, is only between fire signs. A trine, generally speaking, a trine can only be formed between signs of the same element. Generally speaking, it's not always like that. All right. Then you have modalities. All right. So you have the cardinal signs, the fixed signs, the mutable signs. Cardinal signs: Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. Usually these signs fall on the beginning of every season, right? Aries is the beginning of spring, in March. Cancer is the beginning of summer. Libra, the beginning of fall. Capricorn, the beginning of winter. All right. Then you have the fixed signs: Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. And then the mutable signs: Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. So the idea is that fixed signs don't like change. They're very constant, et cetera, et cetera. Mutable signs, very changeable. Cardinal signs, very balanced. And usually squares can only be made. Here's a square. Squares can only be made between signs of the same modality. So this square that you see in this chart right here, you see Sagittarius, Pisces, uh, what is this, Gemini, and Virgo, all mutable signs, right? Generally speaking, square can only be made between modalities. All right, and then you have sister signs, right? So sister signs generally are just the opposite sign of whatever you're thinking of. So Aries is the sister sign of Libra, Taurus is the sister sign of Scorpio, Gemini, sister sign of Sagittarius, Cancer, sister sign of Capricorn, Leo, sister sign of Aquarius, and Virgo, sister sign of Pisces. These are not enemy signs because this is the same structure as Chinese astrology, where you know the opposite sign is your enemy. But no, these are not enmity signs. These form oppositions in the natal chart, right? And this just talks about balance. Each of these share philosophies, but not necessarily behaviors, right? They go about things different ways. We have an opposition in your chart. It's something that needs to be balanced, right? And that can be balanced. but again, you just have a hard issue. You fall on extremes. Sometimes you feel like an Aries, other time you feel like a Libra in a certain way or a certain behavior, right? So not enemy signs. Let's write that. Not enemy signs. All right. So you have different groupings. This is a part of your knowledge library. And as we get into it, it's going to cover how to break down a sign, right? How do you really get to understand a sign? And these are not in order, right? Some of these matter more than others, but here's what I look at, right? What the sign represents in general. So what is the Aries, right? The elements and modalities we just covered, as well as the sister sign, right? And sister sign. It's ruling planet. So for an Aries, you look at Mars, right? The mythology, right? And what I mean by mythology, Mars slash Aries is the Greek god of war, the Greco-Roman god of war. It's alchemical symbol. This right here, right, is an alchemical symbol. Mars has an alchemical symbol as well as the sign itself. Those are very important. You can't ignore those. Right. So the alchemical symbol, the symbol itself, and what I mean from that, like, so why would I put alchemical symbol and then symbol right next to each other? Because the alchemical symbol is this purple thing you see right here. It's an emoji. They made it purple. I tried to change it, I couldn't. But yeah, this is the alchemical symbol for Aries. But the symbol for Aries, right? Aries equals the ram. That's the sign of Aries, right? The symbol of Aries is the ram. Um, so that also matters. The numerology, right? Aries is the first sign. That matters a lot. And it's ruling planet, of course. So there's a bunch of ways you can look at. There's probably more that I just haven't thought about. But there's a bunch of ways you can look at Aries and really try to understand its energy and what it does and how it works and how it operates and stuff like that. And we'll go into it for every sign. We're going to go deep into every sign and how to break it down, how to understand it, and what it does as we move on. All right. How much time I got? I got a lot of time left. Okay. Lastly, we have aspects. So aspects are made in a natal chart, and this is like the hidden part of astrology because you can know what your planets are, you can know what your sun sign is, but your aspects really tell you the parts of your personality that you clash with, like, right? It can tell you what you don't like about yourself, right? It can tell you the aspects is how you really find uh, this dynamic between two personalities. That's how you do it. The aspects is great for windows of opportunity. This is really your meat and potatoes, right? That's how I can look at a chart like for 10 seconds and just read it. It's really simple after you do it enough times. Excuse me. But yes, let's get into the different aspects, right? So conjunctions. So before we get into aspects, you have to understand that a chart is 360 degrees. There are 12 signs, 360 degrees, 12 signs. So what's 360 divided by 12? That's 30. So every sign takes over 30 degrees in the chart, more or less, right? More or less. Sometimes it's not always constant. Sometimes you can have things that change different things. But generally speaking, every sign takes up 30 degrees. Every house takes up 30 degrees, generally speaking. Not all the time, like I said. But again, 360 degrees, 30 degrees per sign, 12 signs. So a conjunction is when two or more planets are right on top of each other in their chart. Okay, so let's look back at our chart. Actually, I can scroll down. Right. So let's say the sun is right here, where I'm scrolling over, and then the moon is right here. Right. That is conjunction. Right, in or around the same place. It's 0 degrees, right on top of each other. Conjunction, combined. Right. Because in a conjunction, the energy of both planets are shared slash combined. You can basically treat it as one new planet, right? So in the example I gave, actually this one, I can use this one, where the sun is at 13 degrees Taurus and Pluto is at 20. Actually, no, I fucked up. the sun is also, well, the sun is at 13 degrees Taurus and then Pluto is at 13 degrees Taurus. That means this is a conjunction because if you do the math, if you do the math behind this, right? Taurus begins at 60 degrees in the chart. So 60 plus 13 degrees, that's 73. And then you do the same thing. Taurus is 60 degrees in the chart. 60 plus 13, that's 73. So 73 minus 73 equals 0. Equals 0 degrees. Conjunction. Now, some conjunctions aren't exact. A 0 degrees conjunction that we call that exact. That's when the placement is very exact, and we'll get into that. But sometimes you can have Pluto be 14 degrees and the Sun be 13 degrees. We still consider this a conjunction, right? Sometimes it's 15 degrees minus 13 degrees. So 2 degree difference, still a conjunction. The widest aspect, really, most astrologers go 3 to 5. I use 5. I think 5 is a very firm um, um, number, allows for like a lot of margin of error, right? Some astrologers go as far as 10. I think that's insane. I think that is insane. If you ever get an astrologer that uses 10 degrees for their aspects, that is I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking about. For example, let's say in a chart, Pluto is 23 degrees. They're not even close to each other, right? It's too far away. It's too far away for these two planets to have any effect on each other. This is not a conjunction, right? They're just separate. Yeah, they don't even make an aspect to each other. They have no effect on each other, pretty much. All right. So, conjunction, right on top of each other. Generally speaking, this is the most intense relationship two planets can have, or two or more planets can have, right? Because again, it's very intense to combine two different energies together. Sun and Pluto, using this example specifically, this is very intense, right? You have usually when you have a Sun Pluto placement or a Sun Pluto conjunction, you have someone who's extremely intense. Their life is probably very rough because Pluto isn't the easiest planet to get along with, and so on and so forth. There's a bunch of we're going to get into Pluto energy. That's probably going to be people's favorite class because everybody loves the eighth house nowadays. So yeah, my class on Pluto in the eighth house and Mars. No, Pluto, eighth house, and Scorpio energy. We'll get into all this and what that means and all the different stuff. So, conjunctions is when two or more planets are right on top of each other. The energy of both planets are combined slash shared. All right, squares. So, let me show you what a square looks like. These are squares, these red lines. Usually, if you look up your own chart on one of these websites, it shows the square as being red. And that's when two planets make a 90-degree angle to one another. Right? Squares are not always bad. Somehow, this misconception came that squares are bad, and they're not always good either. And it depends on the context of a chart. But squares equal tension, right? Squares equal tension. Um, Sometimes you need squares, right? Sometimes you need tension in a relationship. I've read a relationship chart. It was all triangles, right? It was all triangles, all sextiles, all conjunctions, and it was very smooth. But like the girl was bored, right? There was no friction in a relationship. Sometimes you need that to keep it alive, right? Not everything can just be all good all the time. So yeah, squares equals tension. It is tension that cannot be resolved, right? So these are the parts of yourself that you don't like. These are parts of someone else that you don't like. Um, Generally speaking, doesn't mean like you hate them or you're willing to walk away from it. It's just not reconcilable. There we go. All right, those are squares. So back to our examples: the sun at 13 degrees Taurus and the moon at 13 degrees Leo. So Taurus begins at 60 degrees in a astrology chart. 60 plus 13, that's 73. The moon in 13 degrees Leo. Leo starts at 150 degrees, right? So 150 plus 13, that's 163. Let's do the math real quick. 163 minus 63, that equals 90 degrees. That's square, folks. Nice. And again, sometimes you have squares that are what, 16 degrees. So this instead of 90 degrees, this would be 93 degrees. Still a square, right? Again, uh, I use 5 degrees. That's my limit, 5 degrees. So anything from 85 to 95 degrees. And of course, understand that something that's, let's say you have a square that's 5 degrees apart, right? So you have sun at 13 degrees, and then you have the moon at 18 degrees, right? This is it won't impact you as much as, say, a direct conjunction, okay? It's all about impact when we're talking about degrees, okay? So the planets that make a closer aspect, that make a tighter aspect, have greater impact, generally speaking. And the impact starts to fade after about 5 degrees, according to me. Some people, some people use 8 to 10 degrees. I don't know why, but yeah, that's goofy. Okay. Oppositions. So back to these signs. Usually oppositions are shown as being blue in a chart. If you look up online, like in a free chart reading, oppositions will show as being blue. And they're 180 degrees. There are two oppositions on this chart. It's the Sagittarius to Gemini opposition going right here, going this direction. And then there's the Pisces to Virgo opposition going over here. So again, oppositions are 180 degrees. And whenever you get oppositions, we're talking about, where's it at? Sister signs. Yes. So oppositions are 180 degrees. Usually it's talking about balancing. It's two opposing forces. Um, let's say you have Mars and Aries and, I don't know, Venus in Libra, right? It talks about a balance that you need. Sometimes you're very sexually aggressive, other times you're passive in some other way. Like I said, I'm not in the mindset to interpret stuff. That was a really bad interpretation, but still, you get the idea. There's two balancing forces that you need to balance, or that can be balanced. You don't need to balance them, but there are two things that can be balanced, right? When you get a square, those things cannot be balanced. It's tension. These two planets will not agree, no matter what you do. You just got to live with that, right? You got to live with that tension. Oppositions, they can be balanced, but it takes work. And generally speaking, you flip flop between one side or the other. For example, we have Sun, 13 degrees Taurus. Taurus begins at 60 degrees plus 13, that's 73. Scorpio begins at 240 degrees, so 240 plus 13, that's 253 minus 63. What does that equal to? 180 degrees. That is an opposition. And of course, um, oppositions as weak as 175 degrees to 185 degrees. That's my range. Again, I use five. Even five is very wide to some traditional astrologers, but again, this is just to my research. I think it still has impact. I've given readings and just done stuff in my own life that confirms 5 degrees still has a lot of impact. Now comparable to 1 degree or 0 degrees, right? But still, the impact is there. All right, now trianes. Let's get into trianes. So trianes, triangle. Look at this. Look at that. Right? There's a triangle. So trianes usually indicate smooth energy. The energy works well between both planets. The energy isn't shared. It's not like a conjunction, but the energy between two planets, they're working very fine together. Smooth energy. If a square is when the pretend like you're a river square, the gate is shut. It's a dam, right? No water is allowed coming through. Uh, Trying, right? The dam is open, right? Your water is allowed to flow through. Hopefully that made sense, right? Squares restrict energy. Generally speaking, not all the time. Squares restrict energy. Trines flowing energy. Okay, and again, a trine in a chart forms 120-degree angles, as you can see right here. So let's actually make our example. Forgot to. You have Sun at 13 degrees Taurus, and then you have, let's say, Capricorn. Capricorn at 13 degrees. Look at that. No, not Capricorn. So you have Venus at 13 degrees Capricorn. All right, so Taurus begins at 6 degrees in their natal chart, plus 13, that's 73. Capricorn begins at 300 degrees in their natal chart, so 313. So 313 minus 73 equals 240. And again, our chart is 360 degrees, so we got to reduce again, 360 minus 240. And there's your 120 right there, ladies and gentlemen. I should have used Virgo. That would have been like a lot more easier. I might have confused you guys, but still. What's next? Sextiles. Sextiles are just smaller trines to me. There might be a better explanation out there. To me, I just see them as smaller trines. It's very smooth energy, but not as smooth, not as nowhere near as a trine. Still good. So sextile, 6 degrees. I don't feel like doing the example for this. I think you guys got it at this point. Sun at 13 degrees Taurus. Cancer is sextile to Taurus. So Cancer begins at what, 120 degrees. So 13 degrees Cancer, that's 133, minus 73, that equals 60 degrees in the chart. There's your sextile. Really, it's safe to consider sextiles to be smaller trines, okay? Mhm. And often, when you see these major astrologers, I wish I can pull up a tweet right now. When you see these astrologers and they say six signs are going to be better, right? So they say Taurus, Cancer, Capricorn, Virgo, and Leo are going to have a great summer, right? What they're doing is they're doing the signs that are trine and sextile to each other, and maybe like, it's right, maybe it's not. Pretty often it's not because again, it's super general. You can't really make super general readings like that. But you guys probably seen the tweets I'm talking about, right? Or they'll be like, watch out, Aries, Sagittarius, Leo, et cetera, like, right? You have someone who's stalking you or some shit like that. I don't know. I don't pay attention to that side of astrology Twitter. It's really stupid to me. But yeah, so here's a bit of advanced stuff, a bit of intermediate stuff. You have geometry within your natal chart, right? And there's a lot more geometry than this that we'll get into. This is a part of our class that we'll be covering. There's a lot of geometry in your natal chart. There's grand trines. Again, a grand trine is simply when all signs in an element make a trine to each other. Grand square is when all signs within a modality make a square to each other. And then you have yads. So I won't be covering too many minor aspects. There's a bunch of minor aspects. There's octiles, there's noviles, there's inconjuncts, there's all this different shit. I might only cover inconjuncts because that's relevant to yads. Let's make this pretty. Is relevant to yads, right? And the yad, this is a real chart. I pulled up this random chart. Is made up of a sextile and two inconjuncts. And we're not going to cover inconjuncts. I don't feel like it. I do not feel like it. Um, ugh, not today. But yeah, uh, be sure to pay attention to the geometry. Usually, when you see a grand triangle in a chart, it points to like some major talent or some major part of a relationship that you guys really agree on that really allows a relationship to flow well. Um, Grand square just means a lot of pressure, like a lot of pressure. I think Cardi B, yeah, I think it's Cardi B who has a grand square in her chart. So she puts a lot of pressure on herself, and there's been a lot of pressure just put on her life. And this is a sink or swim kind of thing, man. Either pressure makes diamonds, or makes you crumble. Odds are a whole nother thing, and I don't feel like getting into the odds. Not today. But yeah, this is the beginning of your knowledge library. This is the introduction to Western astrology. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I know this is 52 minutes long. I hope you guys got a lot of value. Hope you guys enjoyed my voice, right? My commentary. Any questions, please feel free to ask. And I will leave the links to buy the course in this YouTube video and the link, or I'll put it in the comment section. But yes, follow my Twitter, follow my accounts. My main account right now is my Twitter and my YouTube channel. My YouTube, you're on it, you know, leave a like if you feel like it. Give a subscribe button, or don't. I don't care. Um, what's my Twitter? Twitter.com/cats. I think this is the one. 33. Let me check before I give you guys the wrong one. Following some stranger. Yep, that's it. Let's link it. There you go. 7-Eleven Cat Tours. That's my name on there. This is the easiest way to talk to me right now until this account gets deleted. Um, but still, follow me for any questions about the course or just about anything else. I do offer a lot of other services. I'm writing a book on manifestation as we speak, because people also have a lot of different questions on there. I also sell readings, and I'll put the link to all my good stuff over here. I hope you guys enjoyed your day. I mean, or going to have a better day if you're just beginning of your day. I hope you had a great day. This is the end of your day. And I hope you learned a lot. And I hope to see you in the class. Thank you for coming. Peace.